Joining me now is the environmentalist Tom Burke, who served as a senior advisor to the Foreign Office's Special Representative on Climate Change. And listening to Prince Charles there, he's talking about the possibility globally of agriculture becoming a net sink, i.e. an absorber of carbon dioxide rather than an emitter as it is at present. Is that credible at all?
I think it's credible. Whether it's doable is a slightly different thing. We have underestimated, I think, the amazing loss of soil that our current agricultural practices have done. So he's quite right to focus on that. And the soil is a tremendous absorber of carbon. So restoring regenerative agriculture, which is the sort of buzz phrase, is particularly important part of it. But there are also other things that we overlook, like seagrass, for instance, another thing, or bogs. Peat bogs are great absorbers. So there's a whole lot of land-based ways of absorbing carbon that we really could invest in far more than we're currently doing.
On the other hand, cattle are emitters of CO2.
Cattle indeed are emitters, and they're also a cause of deforestation as well in large parts of the world, Amazon in particular. So we could do a lot more by exactly as we've been advised to do for all kinds of health reasons, reducing our consumption of red meat. We don't need to take a lot of plant food and turn it into meat in order to keep healthy diets.
The problem is the demand, not just in the West, but also in China, is for red meat. That's why they're cutting down forests in Brazil, for example.
No, it is exactly part of it. And so there is a whole piece that you've got to do. And that is actually an area where I think a price signal could help. We saw that with other things like sugar in our diet, that if you put a small price on the carbon, if you like, in meat, it will help. But it's not the kind of universal panacea that some economists think, that somehow put a global carbon price on things and that solves the problem. There's a role for that in exactly these kind of problems, like helping to drive meat out of our diets. It won't be enough on its own. All of these things take place. The price signal is part of a package of measures. And what people are very good at doing is copying what they see other people doing.
Now, the particular problem Prince Charles was talking about there, or particularly focused, was with agriculture on Africa, which at the moment is a relatively low emitter compared to some other continents.
Completely.
What's happening in Africa?
Well, its state of development, as apart from South Africa, made it very much not an emitter of carbon through the burning of fossil fuels. Nevertheless, it's got phenomenally vulnerable countries, vulnerable in all sorts of different ways. To drought in particular, in East Africa, you're having some of the worst droughts, but you're also vulnerable to floods. So a lot of the impacts are falling on very large populations right now are clearly climate change. Attribution science now means we can say what proportion of or likelihood of these events having a climate element in them are. And it's now quite clear that Africa is one of the areas, as with Southeast Asia, that's getting worst hit by these early impacts of climate change.
Tom, thank you. And